Well, hello. Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip,
And I'm CJ.
and it is Wednesday in the Riv after a 4th of July. And a happy birthday to America. Belated
In
happy
three
birthday.
more years, 3 more years will be 250 years old.
Yeah, yeah. Just a youngster
Just
compared
a
to some of
youngster
these
when you
countries.
consider the rest of the world. You're right.
But I'll tell you, well, we had a very exciting 4th of July, I guess. We were there was a 50 gray reported on President Avenue yesterday. Supposedly, some individual was stabbed in a motor vehicle. That was reported. We're following up on that as we speak, and of course we had the rain and the flooding, and of course we had the fiasco at the fireworks.
That was
Uh,
that was an absolute mess. Okay.
yes,
And now
yes.
here's the thing. I can understand New York. I can even understand Boston. But Fall River, the only good shot I've seen of the fireworks so far has been of a dud that didn't go up in the air. It actually fired off from the barge or wherever it was, and it had the battleship in the background. You could see all the colors and everything.
Well,
The mayor didn't realize that humidity keeps the smoke from dissipating. All you saw last night was colored smoke. You didn't see any fireworks. You saw colored smoke. Hooray, Paul! You did it right again. Yes, indeed.
well,
Okay.
number one, let's face it. He doesn't know that when you're doing things like this, you need a plan B. You need to really look at this stuff and weigh the considerations because he's never let anything. Walking around in the school building, you didn't have a lot of fog unless one of the pipes broke. So he's not used to this kind of stuff. And again, the people are irate and justifiably so. But again, it's just a symbol of his inability to lead anything. So I'm gonna show you the fireworks. Wait a minute. That's the wrong. Time out. Time out. We're gonna start this all over again. Oh, this way. You see those mushroom clouds? That's the fireworks. Somebody sent me this video. Look at it. It looks like a massive mushroom cloud. It's all it looks like Hiroshima and Nagasaki down there. This is what they had last night. And how much money did that thing cost? That was the fireworks. So obviously, people were not happy, but in the end, there are more important issues in the city of Fall River: crime, uh, underperforming education, all these things. But we just ignore them, and what do we do to show priorities? I can segue into politicians in general. Did you happen to see that little snippet on Channel 10 News about South Attleboro's MBTA station?
Yes.
Yeah, it's a station. It's in total disrepair. The thing's falling apart. It's an eyesore. It's been like that for years now. And they keep promising to fix it. So, of course, all the politicians came down for a photo op. But when they were questioned about when it was going to get done, they were all running from the camera. Remember when Nadler was running down the hallway when they were questioning him about something he didn't want to talk about? It's like,
Yep.
see you later. Just run away from the microphone. And they had the Secretary of Transportation, I believe, and they're trying to stick a mic and say, well, when's this going to get fixed? We keep hearing it's going to get fixed. We know it's very important to the people of the area, and we're working on it. Well, we're going to work on it forever. It doesn't take them years to get their pay raises, does it? Doesn't take them years to get their pet projects through, does it? No. But when it's something for the people, screw it. Just let them wait. Nobody cares. We take care of our Richie friends. It's all about their priorities. Their priorities are them and their campaign donors and the rich people. They don't care about regular people. That's the way it is. Just look at it. Where was Paul? At the pickleball courts, greeting the pickleballers. I don't know. You think people that can't make their rent are down there playing pickleball? I don't think so. You want to play pickleball? Drive your fancy car down to the pickleball courts and go play pickleball. You're not worried about your rent. You're not worried about having enough money for food. You're not worried about getting thrown out of an apartment you lived in for the last 20 years. No, you're going to play pickleball today. It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. That's what you call delusion, and that's what they sell best. Paul's campaign is ignore reality. And remember, you can play pickleball in Fall River now. So this is again I'll close this little segment with another quote from his own words from his transition draft here that I showed you before. Okay, this is a quote. Quote: economic development and community development go hand in hand. One cannot survive without the other. Unquote. Mayor-elect Coogan. Well, Mayor Coogan, you're no longer mayor-elect. This was done almost 4 years ago. You really think you're developing your community when you're kicking people out in the street because all you want to do is gentrify this city? You want to push them out of their apartments, people who have lived here their whole lives, and hope we're going to get a bunch of people down from who knows where to occupy all these buildings. And we're going to turn this into Newton. Well, after that, bad enough, the first thing they're going to look at is crime and education, because that's what rich people look at when they relocate. Now, after everybody sees this abysmal fireworks display, they're going to go, they can't even run fireworks right. They can't, they had to do it. We had to do it because I had a whole bunch of things going. Well, you should have had a contingency plan. You always have to have a plan B because things change. Weather changes. You should have realized that. But then again, you've never really been in a leadership position in your entire life. So again, another example of he wants everybody to forget about the reality of living in Fall River where you can get stabbed in your car, shot, or have your house or car with bullet holes in it, and just pretend it doesn't happen because that's the way he wants that. This is his. He's the Wizard of Oz.
Well, it's interesting. You brought up a good point about the 4th of July events down on the waterfront. The mayor didn't take into effect, as you said, a plan B. Didn't take into account the rain, like it rains in New England. Did you know it rained in New England in July? Did you know that?
Yeah, I've heard that. There's a rumor to that effect.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, New Bedford canceled their events, and they put them off to another day. I guess it's good for New Bedford, but it's not good for Fall River.
Wait a minute. New Bedford. Isn't that the place where the mayor has a plan for affordable housing?
Yes, it is. Imagine that.
Isn't that a city where the mayor has a plan for the police department? They're down to 211 or something, but he's going to take people off desk duty, put them back on the streets because he's concerned about crime.
Yeah.
Okay. I just wanted to clarify that we're talking about the same New Bedford. Okay.
I know, it's amazing, isn't it? It's actually scary when you think about it.
Yeah.
But I understand a little bit, very little, the mayor's position. He had food trucks out there. He had special events for children. He had bands out there. He had the military out there. And it was probably very difficult for him to reschedule all of those people on another day with such short notice. But when you make plans for these events, you should plan for another day. And a lot of people are comparing this to the Christmas parade. Remember we lost the Christmas parade last year?
Oh, yeah.
Okay? Couldn't have the Christmas, well, not last year, the year before. We couldn't have the Christmas parade because it was too cold and there was no way to reschedule it because, again, you had the big balloons, you had bands from all over the place. So we lost that. People in the city would have preferred to have put off the fireworks display to another day. I'm not sure how much effect that would have, because if the humidity is still as high as it was, and it was higher because of the rain, it would be very difficult to get a better view. But if you looked at the New York ones, if you looked at the Boston ones, I usually watch Boston and New York. Boston goes the fourth is the one I really like. I like the Boston Pops. And even their fireworks display was terrible. And normally they have one of the best fireworks displays I've ever seen. And even theirs was terrible. New York's, Macy's 4th of July celebration, the fireworks were terrible. And they knew it. But again, how can you not have the event when you're going to be on national TV at 8 o'clock at night?
Well, that's where the term leadership comes. I don't even see a little bit of that point, because you have to err on the side of caution. You want the event to be a really great event. You should always have a day, a makeup day scheduled for something of this magnitude, especially when you're talking about all these things like bands. Listen, people cancel that event early in the day, and he chose not to. Now, you're not going to tell me that if he had a coordinated organization there, that they couldn't reach out to all the people involved in saying, we're going to our alternate day. But that would require a brain that operates like a leader, not a follower. That would take somebody who learns to make a decision. There are two types of decisions, and I used to tell my officers that worked under me this when they first came to my shift. I said, when you get to a fire, if I'm not there, because it may be closer to your station, you're going to be in command, and you do something, because there are two types of errors: error of omission and errors of commission. Errors of omission means you don't do anything, and errors of commission means you did something. It may not be the right thing, but you did something. So I told them, if you make an error of omission and you're standing there with your finger in your derriere, when I get there and nothing's being done to fight a fire, you're in big trouble. If you make an error of commission and maybe you put the line in the wrong place and you made a tactical or strategic error, it's not a problem. We drill on tactics and strategy. I can take you after the fire and say, you got here, you put a line up, it's good. You began to fight the fire. You got the equipment hooked up. But next time, this is what you should do. This is what you did wrong, and because we drilled on tactics all the time. But you see, that's the way leaders think, who have to be in command of something. You always have to be flexible, have an alternate plan, and sometimes you just can't do it. I remember, I think Leo Stapleton, who was a fire commissioner in Boston, I got the book somewhere over there in one of my bookcases. It's called 30 Years on the Line. He was a chief in Boston for 30 years before he became the fire commissioner in Boston. And there's a great picture of him standing in front of this tremendously huge fire. And it was one of the greatest captions I've ever seen about being a real leader. And he was a leader, because sometimes you just got to know when you can't do it that day. And this place was a roaring inferno. And the caption under it was a quote from him. He said, sometimes no matter how hard you try, you're going to make a parking lot because the fire was too far gone. That's what leaders do. They're able to look at situations, and they have situational awareness, and then they can make decisions predicated on leadership, which unfortunately our mayor has never had to display through his entire career as an educator or now as mayor. All they do is just do this. I mean, listen, fireworks, I can understand how people are upset, and justifiably so. But fireworks, lousy fireworks, well, tough. Uh, but doing the same thing about crime, the same thing about people being displaced from their homes, about underperforming education, that's not acceptable. There's where leadership really comes into play, to quote him, economic development and community development. You're not developing your community when you leave all these areas, which are problematic, and we can prove it with data, of being left unaddressed.
Touche. Touche. Well, the other thing that a lot of people weren't happy about that celebration was it was after a heavy rain, and guess what? You needed your boat to get through Duval Street. No drainage whatsoever. So, are you going to take your blanket down to that park, place it on top of the wet grass and dirt, the mud, and sit down in it to get up with a wet butt? I mean, some kids wouldn't care, but parents care, and nobody wants to stand around. So maybe they're going to bring down a chair, and they'll sit in a chair. Before Paul says, "Well, people brought chairs." Well, people can bring chairs, but still, they're sitting in mud. They're sitting in mud. Or they got to stand along the boardwalk.
And the irony is, CJ, that we paid all, these people all appeared there talking about food trucks and bands and stuff like that. You don't think food trucks realize that if it's pouring buckets and stuff and people aren't going to attend, they don't want to be there anyway?
That's right.
Because they're not going to sell anything. If half the people get up and walk away, leave because it's terrible, how much was accomplished? But listen, I understand. You understand. We've been around long enough to know this is all about throwing a lollapalooza because it's an election year. So we're going to do it up big. We're going to have all kinds of events because there's your true test of leadership. Have a big party. Don't fix crime. Don't fix housing. Don't fix anything. Just throw another party. Play a little pickleball, and tell everybody it's always sunny in Philadelphia. No, that's a TV series. No, actually, we should have it's never sunny in Fall River, but in the Riv. But again, it's just a gross absence of leadership by the man who's supposed to be leading the city.
Agreed. And even if Paul would look to what other mayors are doing in other communities, like Attleboro, like New Bedford, like Taunton. Taunton's doing a lot. I mean, they're not tolerating anything. I mean, look at what the state turned around and put a whole bunch of aliens in one hotel, took a whole hotel out of service. So if people need to come do business in Taunton, they have to stay in another community for a hotel. Is that going to benefit their economic development? No, because people are going to go somewhere else, spend their money there, buy their meals there. They're not going to spend any time in Taunton. And so the mayor of Taunton said, "Hey, enough of this. You're over capacity on it. We're going to fine you $1,000 a day." Who's paying that? Is the hotel paying that? Is the state paying that? Is the state going to move some of these people? I guarantee you that if the state called Paul and said, "Hey, can we use your hotel in Fall River?" he'd say, "Yeah, sure. Why not? Why not?"
Yeah, they're making money.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you what I did like in Taunton. I've seen it. They just started doing it in Taunton. I don't know if you saw it yesterday on, I believe it was Channel 10 News. But I've seen it before up in the small rural towns outside of Weymouth. Because when I go up to Weymouth to the vet, when I took Abby up there for orthopedic evaluation, and a year ago for a surgery. Um, I drive through the back roads rather than go to fight the Boston traffic. It takes a little long and but it's you meander through these back roads and these pretty well-to-do communities. Uh, but those communities that had what time they've adopted on their light poles. But then again, probably wouldn't work in Fall River because they never maintain anything. But up in those communities up there, the small little towns, on every post in their little small downtown area, they have a picture of one of their residents who was killed in action fighting for this country. How appropriate was that? And Taunton put it up to ensure it was there for the 4th of July. Now that's what that's what you see people paying attention to what the people who live in their community have done, not try to kick them out and bring new people in because they're not worthy. We've had a lot of people that have sacrificed their lives for this country. Why can't Fall River do that? I'm sure, Taunton, that's not an original idea. They had it in a few communities. They've had it there for, well, I think Abby had her surgery now going on a year and a half, 2 years ago. And I saw this, I was looking at the signs. They not only have the individual's name, they actually have their military picture. If they were Navy, Army, Marines, Air Force, they have their picture. They have, the date they were killed in action, and I think it's a beautiful tribute. And that's the kind of thing that brings communities together, not separates them. But that's what this administration wants to do. They want to separate everybody by the haves and the have-nots, the connecteds and the unconnecteds. They don't want to hear these people. They don't exist. Only the people that they want can be included. They want to turn this into an exclusive club, the Fall River Pickleball Association and an elitist gentrification organization.
Hey, so, that's FRPBA.
Yeah, that's a nice acronym. Try to say it fast 6 times,
Exactly. Hey, to change the stream a little bit, for the lack of a better expression, South Coast Wind and Prismian are planning a public meeting in Swansea. I would like to know a public meeting in Swansea too. The reason why is they supposedly are trying to get out of their contracts with the Commonwealth because they can't afford it. So what does that leave Fall River, Somerset, and Swansea? And why are they holding the meeting in Swansea when everything revolves around Somerset for them? And also, they've changed their name. In case you didn't know that.
Well, that's always the answer to things. You just change the name. You don't do anything differently, but you change the name.
So, right.
But we all know that doesn't work because, if it walks like a duck, it quacks like a duck. It's probably a duck, no matter what you call it. But we've seen, it's campaign season, and hopefully things will heat up. I'm totally baffled by the lack of any kind of political rhetoric going on here. I know that Chris Peckin's been pretty active. I guess he made a comment about the pickleball, and where was he about keeping his promises for Corky Row, where that murder was.
Right.
But it's still not. All those promises made have not been kept again, and. We are going to have a primary for the city council also, correct? We got 19 people.
City council and mayor.
So we let's hope we'll see some of these candidates. And, For the record for you guys, we are going to have some of these candidates on, and they're not going to be part of our show. We're going to have an individual show dedicated to them, so we can let them put out their platform. We can question them, and we may even have you guys send in some questions that you want us to ask some of the counselors. And this is one of the great things about having this venue now, that we have a lot of airtime that we can spend. As you know, our last show went nearly an hour, and the shows will be predicated on how much we really got to talk about. And if it's kind of like a rehash of things that's all gone, it'll probably be the half an hour. But if it isn't, and I think that the campaign season is going to afford us the big opportunity now to bring some of these people on and let you get to know them. Let you listen to their ideas. You may realize that some of these people actually maybe have a good idea. So I'm looking forward to bringing some of these people on our show.
And while you're on that subject, because it was brought to my attention yesterday that we should make sure that people know this. When we were at the studio, we always told people we have a third chair here. It's available if you want to disagree with us or you have a different opinion. We're always willing to listen and debate it with you. We have the same opportunity here. If you disagree with us, if you want to let your voice be heard, contact us. We'll be more than happy to set up a time for you to be on the show with us, because guess what? We don't do this show for us. We do this show for you. And because of that, we want you to be heard if you need to be heard. Because remember, First Amendment rights are for everyone, not just for us. So if you
I wish that
elsewhere, you can be heard here.
I wish that attitude was held by other people, but the only people that have First Amendment rights is them, and we don't. That's so they deflect. And listen, if you look, all of those people who thought those fireworks were wonderful, if you want to come on the show and say you thought it was great, go ahead. But listen, if you have a legitimate argument with anything we say, I'm not talking about you don't like what we say, because frankly, we're not going to let you come on here and just ramble on about how much what you dislike what we say without having any kind of counter argument as to why what we're saying is wrong. So if you think that, for example, if you want to say you disagree with it, you love the MBTA, that's fine. We can debate the MBTA. You love the fact that we're having virtually all market rate housing. If you want to try to make that case, we will be glad to debate you on that case. But come on. That invitation stands, always will stand. And
we've never taken it away. We've never taken it away.
Maybe you were uncomfortable getting in the studio in between CJ and I, but now you don't have to. You'll just be in another window next to us.
That's
between us.
We did hear something about last night's show from the Fall River Experience. So remember, this is from the Fall River Experience. It was a great idea, emphasized, not to postpone. They wouldn't have been able to get all the vendors back for a rain date. I think it was a great turnout. It may have been a great turnout, but there was a great amount of disappointment as well.
Okay? Well, again, there's Paul's press agent working again. He's one of the few people, and as we said, he has every right to that opinion. We think it's wrong. And everything the mayor does is wonderful to you, because maybe we'll get the mayor of Wonderful on our show again, and you can agree with him with everything he says, because everything is wonderful that Paul does. There was no way to get them all back. Well, guess what? If when you put that operation together, you would have only let people participate who were willing to play on an alternate day if we did have a problem. See, that's leadership. But in order to think about those kind of variables, because things never go exactly the way you plan, and leaders know that, especially when you're leading complex operations like fires and cities. You're supposed to have that. So you say, can you make a rain date? Are you available? And then you set that up long beforehand. But then again, you might need a little leadership ability and a few extra brain cells to think that way. So but you're entitled to think it was a wonderful show. I actually thought that, some of those fireworks looked more like Hiroshima and Nagasaki because of the fog. And I don't do fireworks anyway. Don't like them. I think they're a total waste of money and time. And we wasted a lot of money because all those vendors got paid, and a lot of those vendors went down and didn't make anywhere near the money they wanted to make because a lot of people, I was told, walked out. They left.
Yeah, well.
So,
but again,
but one man's meat is another man's poison. So if you want to agree with the mayor on everything, fine, and that's your prerogative. But we can always take a poll and see how many people that went to the fireworks thought it was a good idea not to cancel. I think so far from the feedback we're getting, it's about 80% said no, it should have been canceled. But if you want to have that opinion, listen, you might even like Brussels sprouts.
Well, I think that's going to be about it for today's show. I can hear the music already. And remember...
Well, wait, before we leave, isn't it wonderful that he hates us so much that he watches every single show? And without us, he'd have no material at all.
Right. And the former experience said, did you go? Question mark, question mark, question mark, question mark. I did, and it was a great turnout.
Well, who cares
Bunch
if you
of
went?
Old clowns, he says. Remember, I can easily shut your First Amendment rights off.
Old clown, huh? Old clown. Come here, big pal.
Yep.
You want to mess with that gun, old clown?
It's interesting. But remember, we're slow. No, I don't think so. I don't think you have a PhD.
So now, wait a minute. Hold it. Before we hope, I might file an age discrimination suit against him.
There you go.
Do you realize how heinous that personal attack on older people was? Now I know why he gets along with Paul so much. He's a wokey.
Mm-hmm. Well, I want to thank you all for watching, and remember, stay safe, stay angry, and hold your politicians accountable. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on Friday.